All right, I am joined by the man himself, Phil Hellmuth. You're my Wisconsin guy, and the Green Bay Packers are one of four teams remaining. They're going to take on, who are they taking? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Phil, I wanted to talk. There you go, perfect. The Green Bay Packers hat, and you've been killing it, Phil. I was just looking at your latest tweet. You've been tweeting all season long. You said you are 12-6-1 on your NFL picks of the week, and you won 5 weeks in a row now. You took the Buffalo Bills last week. You are on fire, my friend.
It's really kind of fun. People are paying close attention, and someone corrected that and said that I've won 6 weeks in a row. So I guess I was 6-6-1. So yeah, I've been really on fire. Interestingly, I had all four winners picked this past weekend. It was crazy. And I kept vacillating back and forth between, Packers to beat the Rams and cover and Buffalo. And I just had a stronger feeling about Buffalo, but the Packers also covered. And so, it turned out that I would have gone 4 for 4. Yeah, I like betting sports. I tend to do really, really good with my top pick each week. And that's my strength, I think.
I know one of your other strengths is, and this is for years now in the making, is betting NFL totals. What can you tell us about that? And maybe for those who don't know, what does that even mean? What does betting NFL totals mean?
Well, see, the most exciting thing for me is when I found out that you can bet NFL totals. So that's to bet how many games win and lost, won and lost per year. And there's a lot of luck week to week in the NFL, but these long-term bets, there's a lot more skill. And so the first time I ever saw it on the board, and the most I'd ever bet in a game was like 1,000. And I saw that Peyton Manning was going to be quarterback for Denver. And he had a kind of a neck injury. And I just assumed he'd recover. Now, we knew that Tim Tebow had won 8 games or something the year before. And so I'm like, how the heck they didn't lose anybody. This is not a lock. This has to be a lock. So I bet 10,000 on Denver. I did it in a sports book at the Aria. And I bet 10,000 on Denver to win over 8 games plus $1.30 or something. So, it was crazy. I want to say plus $1.50. But it was like, but anyway, and that one started off a little shaky. They didn't do well. And then I remember, boom, the next thing I knew, they were, 9-4 or something. Right. So they might've been 2-3 to start, but then boom. And then every year I'm like, wow, I love this NFL total stuff. So every year I look for something. Last year, I thought with the new coach who was going to just be really good with analytics, was going to make a couple of games difference in the Packers. And so last year, my biggest bet was the Packers to win. I think it was only over 8 games. Now, in this season, I want to say, I saw the Miami Dolphins on the board at 6. And I was like, and Mike the Mouth Matisow, we talk it over. And he's like, man, they won their last 6 out of 7 games. And they're getting we like their coaching. And so my biggest bet of the year was Miami to win over 6 games. And I think they started 0-2. And but boom, as you know, they finished 10-6 or 11-5 or something. And then also my second biggest bet was Tampa Bay at 9.5. I just thought if they could win all those games with last year's quarterback, then who threw a ton of interceptions, I think it was Jameis Winston, then how are they going to do with Tom Brady? And so so those again hit my 2 biggest bets. I've never had a losing year in NFL totals. And so that's just fun for me because it's a season-long sweat. And so I watched all the Dolphins games, especially until they went until they won their 6th or 7th, till they won their 7th or 8th game. And I was like, okay. Well, but that's kind of a fun sweat. And I think there's a lot of skill and there's a lot of moving parts and there's always numbers on the board that don't make sense to me. And, unfortunately I didn't bet the Packers, and now you want to move forward to my picks for this week. Yeah,
I do. Yeah. And let me just say, I'm actually a big Miami Dolphins fan. I love the Packers, but I'm a Dolphins fan at heart. So I'm glad to see that they made you some money. But yeah, let's talk about the games this week. I was looking right before the show at OddsChecker just to see what the current odds and lines are. And it looks like most places have both the AFC and NFC games at minus 3.5 for the Packers and minus 3.5 for the Chiefs. Now let's start with the AFC. Let's talk the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs, because this is an exciting game. Not only that they're two good teams, but there's a big question mark right now as we record this, and that's, will Patrick Mahomes be out of concussion protocol and be in this game? So what are your thoughts, and who do you like in this game?
It's really weird to me. It's like I was talking to Mike the Mouth on the phone, who's one of the world's worst sports bettors, by the way. But he's pretty knowledgeable. He listens to a lot of shows, pays close attention, loves the NFL. He doesn't have kids. He spends a lot of time watching football. And and we were talking on the phone with our friend Ben Yarush, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of had a dream that Buffalo was going to win it all. And Mike's like, what? He said, I had the same dream. It's a vision. And then he went and bet him at 9-1 that minute. I also bet Buffalo at 9-1, but not enough money to even make a difference. Not even enough to bring up in a conversation here.
Sure.
But I bet him at 9-1, and I said, but I don't know how they're going to do it. And then when Mahomes went down, I was like, wow, now I see a more clear path. But I think Buffalo is a much better team than people understand. I think that Josh Allen he's been phenomenal. He's been a real phenom, and I think they have a great team. And so when it comes to this game, Mahomes, it would have been more interesting for me if I knew Mahomes was going to be healthy and I thought they'd be 8-point favorites, and I could hammer Buffalo. At 3.5, it's a little different. I think, but my kind of weird, idea in my mind, vision, dream, whatever you call it. It's not really a vision, is, wow, Buffalo, can win the Super Bowl. And so I would lean towards betting Buffalo in that game. But you don't have these dreams or visions for no reason. You have them because you see something in your mind and it kind of says, wow, I could see them doing all of it. And Buffalo's been tough, man. They played a pretty tough schedule. And I really think Buffalo could end up winning it all. Now, if Mahomes is out, Buffalo, I think, is going to win big in that game. I don't think Kansas City's defense has shown me much. And I think that Buffalo's offense has been phenomenal.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you. I've been pretty impressed with the Bills. As an AFC East fan, I've seen a lot of them. They destroyed the Dolphins this year, and I agree with you. Josh Allen is very talented. So I have envisioned, as we're talking about, a vision of the Green Bay Packers and Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. Let's talk about the NFC matchup, because if Green Bay is going to get there, they're going to host Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they showed last week when they beat Drew Brees and the Saints that they should not be taken lightly. What are your thoughts on the NFC Championship game and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Green Bay Packers?
That will be my pick of the week. I'm pretty sure it's right now. It was between Buffalo and Green Bay last week, and it's between Buffalo and Green Bay this week. But I'm pretty sure my pick of the week is going to be the Packers. Now, the thing that I missed, the thing I didn't understand, is in a pandemic, there's no crowds. And so we're talking, you go back to week 1. And the first thing I saw, and probably a lot of really smart people saw this, is with no crowds, the best quarterbacks in the world, which I think Rodgers is one, but also Brady's one, they can see the defense and they can change the call 2 or 3 times easily. Whereas in a loud environment, when they're screaming and yelling, the play call can't be changed as quickly. So Rodgers can actually get to the line of scrimmage and change the play call not once, but twice. And at that point, after game 1, I was like, oh my God, I should have bet the Packers to win over 9 games, because I don't think they have the best team, but I think they have the best quarterback. And I think that, Rodgers has just been on fire all year. There's no reason to think he won't continue to be on fire. People said, well, the Rams have this great defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams were a better team than the Packers, between you and I, if Goff was healthy. But it doesn't matter. Packers has been carrying, Rodgers has been carrying the Packers on his back. And I think they're going to put up a lot of points. And Brady's going to somehow have to match that. And I don't know if he can. And so I think Rodgers, I wouldn't be surprised. And you have to understand, the Packers had their deep run last year as well, right? And I think there's that lingering disappointment of making it. They were in the championship game, right?
Yep, against the San Francisco 49ers, and they lost.
Correct. And there's that lingering disappointment of making it to a championship game. And then the next year, that's all you're thinking about. And so they're focused, and they're like, I think that they have emotion in their favor. I think they have Rodgers in their favor. And I think they're going to put up 35 points. I also predicted Buffalo would put up a bunch of points, but it was so windy that day that last weekend. But I think Rodgers is going to put up a ton of points. Aaron Jones has been super steady, and he's just like. And then I wouldn't be so. I think the Packers are. I think it could easily go 35-21.
All right, let's say the Packers win. Let's say the Bills win, as we've discussed here. They're in the Super Bowl. Who do you like in that Super Bowl, the Packers or the Bills?
I mean, I would probably, the fact that I've seen it in my mind, the Bills would scare me a little bit, but I think that Rodgers is would I have that same kind of thing in my mind? Would I still think that if the Packers are there? Because Rodgers has been phenomenal. I will tell you this. I'm a lifelong Packers fan. And so I went to the Super Bowl in San Diego where Elway did some miracle helicopter to beat us. We were 7-point favorites in that game. We went right down the field, Chad. I brought my dad, 50-yard line seats. I just split the main event at the Four Queens, at the Rio. I just split the main event with Huck Seed. We got heads up, and I was disappointed not to win it. And then literally I'm flying to San Diego, and my dad's meeting me for the Super Bowl. And I remember just thinking, wow, what a life I have. I just picked up a couple $100,000. We're going to the Super Bowl. And, and I looked at the people next to me and I felt sorry for them, the Denver fans. They were really nice. And I'm like, oh shit, we're going to win 48 and we're going to win 49-0, And I actually felt sorry for them because we went right down the field. By the end of the game, they felt sorry for me and my dad. And that one hurt. And then I went to the Super Bowl and we went to Dallas. I went down there, with the Starkey Hearing Foundation. We put hearing aids in people that really needed them. Some people had never had good hearing, and just to see the look on their face when they can hear good for the first time. Spent 3 days doing that. I remember, I'm neither Democrat or Republican, but I remember my friend saying, hey, get ready for the day. We're going to go to the George Bush Library opening. And I'm like, it's not open. He's like, yeah, this is the VIP opening. And I go there and there's two celebrities in the room. Daryl Moose Johnson, who was a lifetime Dallas guy, and Larry Fitzgerald and I came together. And so it was just so crazy. And I remember going up to President Bush and I had a book I wanted to give him. And, I went up and I said, hey, it's nice to meet you. Someone said, hey, this is Phil Hellmuth, the best poker player in the world. It was pretty cool. And then I was like, it's a president, I don't want to be in his face. And so, but then Condoleezza Rice was there, and both governors from Wisconsin, I think it was Walker, and the governor of Pennsylvania, because we played the Steelers, were there. There were like only 30, 40 people in the room. It was kind of crazy big, Secret Service everywhere, one of those deals. Wow. And so then I'm like, I want to go say hi to Condoleezza Rice. Someone says she's over there, and I start to walk over there, and there's a door, and I see President Bush, and I can't bother the president. I mean, everybody bothers the presidents. And I start to turn around, and he sees me and waves me through. Phil, come here. I'm like, President Bush knows my name. And then he says, he introduces me to Condoleezza Rice. Like, this is the best poker player in the world. And I'm like, yeah, nice to meet you, Condi. I'm in Palo Alto. I had already given him a signed autographed copy of my book. And all of a sudden he's asking me all these questions. How much skill is in poker? How much this, how much that? And it's Condoleezza Rice, me, and the billionaire philanthropist, Bill Austin. And someone takes a picture and I tweet about it. And then Warren Lush calls me and he says, Phil, we want to put you on the front page of the London Times. And it was going to be, they were going to goof on me, right? It was going to be, here is Phil Hellmuth, the world's best poker player, with the guy who made online poker illegal. and so the picture was just turned out to be a really bad camera phone. And so they didn't run the picture. They did put me on the front page of the London Times. It was pretty cool. And so it's just, these weird things just happen all the time to me. And then, and earlier in the day, we went to meet Garth Brooks. And so I was just like, what is going on here? But anyway, I was there for the Packers. The rest was a lot of fun. I did an event with Gene Simmons down there too, Friday night. But it's just cool to go to these places and ball out. And And
It's exciting. Like you said, when you met with your dad to go, like the life you live is pretty exciting. You grew up pretty close to where I am right this moment in Madison, Wisconsin. So it is pretty exciting. It's pretty cool to think that the Green Bay Packers, kind of facilitated that in a strange way because you were there for the Super Bowl. And so if the Packers go to the Super Bowl this year, any chance you try to go? I know it's with the pandemic, it's limited attendance in Tampa Bay where the Super Bowl will be held. But is that something you think you would do, or you think you try to watch it from the comfort of your home?
now I would love to go to the game, but I think that we're getting closer and closer to a vax right now in Florida right now. I was just told this by my stream, who's like some of the smartest people in the world are on my regular stream, including Chamath Palihapitiya, David Sachs, Friedberg. We're hearing that if you live in Florida right now and you're over the age of 65, you can make an appointment on an app and get the vax 2 days later. So they're way ahead of California. Right now, California is 75 or older. And so, I know people that have flown other places to get the vax. Very famous people. They're not jumping the line, but, I have a friend who's 76 and he's like, I can get it in Texas versus waiting another week or two in Nevada. And he flew down there and got it. And so, but for me personally, so close to the vaccine, and my wife's already had both doses, that it's really hard to travel. And I know that they want me to go and shoot, my next series of heads up matches, which will be, and that's just a great show. People love it. And I said, listen, I can't shoot it in January, fellas. I'm sorry. Love Poker Central, love Poker Go app. But, when you're this close to a vaccine, it doesn't make sense for someone like me to travel when I can kind of stay home and isolate. By the way, I do remember my first Packers experience going to a game.
Let's hear it. Was it at Lambeau Field?
But believe it or not, it was as an adult. So my dad's a lifelong Packers fan. He'd never been to Lambeau. Now my dad, come on, he's, he has 5 kids, right? And so, he probably never spent enough money on himself, which is why when he goes to Vegas, I'm buying him caviar and Dom Perignon and putting him in nice suites and taking him to China. We want to spoil your parents, right? Spoil them as much as you possibly can. And I remember, my dad crying when I brought him to the Great Wall of China. I never thought I'd see this. It's always been a lifetime goal. My mom and dad in tears. And 2 weeks in China, first class hotels the whole way. And they were like crying. And so anyway, I brought my dad to Lambeau, but they had us all set up, and you're not going to believe the story. So I text Troy Aikman, and Troy's like, come through this gate. So my dad and I go through the gate, and it turns out it's the game where the Minnesota Vikings and Brett Favre are coming back to play the Packers. Oh, yeah. So the whole poker universe is focused on this game. So I meet Troy, and Troy says, Phil, this is a long tradition that John Madden taught me, where we have a bratwurst. And they had this thing full of bratwurst, like 7 or 8 or 10 bratwurst. And my dad and I have a bratwurst with Troy Aikman. And now I'm thinking, all right, I wonder if we can go to the stadium. And so we had some passes or whatever, and we start walking into the stadium, and it's just my dad and I. I'm like, what is going on here? This is the center of the football universe in like 2-3 hours. And we walk down, and nobody stops us. And we walk down to the field, and we had field passes. And it's my dad and I and some guy, kicking. There were 4 people in the whole stadium. And I'm in this Lambeau field, and we're down on the field, and the grass is green, and Favre's coming in soon for the other team. And we're just so fired up. It's just so amazing to be there. And then Troy shows up, and there's like 6 people on the field. And then we watch as the stadium fills up with people. And then, my dad and I, they say, hey, we only had pregame field passes. It's very hard to get the regular ones. I have those for the Niners games a lot, where you can stay there the whole game, but very hard. But we had the pregames, and they're like, hey, we're bringing you to the box. Well, it was filled with all the Packers, that had won the championship, a few years before. And so, a lot of them were into poker. So it's my dad and I in this box. And who was the Packers kicker? Is it Ray Guy? Who was the Packers kicker all those years?
It sounds familiar. It was before my time, Phil. It was a little before my time.
Anyway, whatever. My dad's in heaven because he's with some of the old time guys.
Sure.
We sit next to him talking. We're in this amazing booth. And I just thought, man, it's just so much fun. That was my one Packers game, and it was my dad's one Packers game. He's a lifelong fan, watches every week, and it felt really good to gift him that. And I would tell you something else, Chad. I was super depressed when we lost in '99 or whatever it was to the Broncos, but
Right.
I was high for 2 weeks after the Packers beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in that Super Bowl. 2 weeks. And I think it was because of all the negative emotion that I'd carried from the '99 game. And I was like, this is so weird. I'm like, honey, it's 10 days later and I'm still high because the Packers won. And so I think that's the effect sometimes a team can have on you. And I know you're all in with the Packers. I was also a Miami fan when I was younger and a Dallas Cowboy fan when I was younger. But it was always Packers #1 for me.
Yeah, it's always exciting back here in Wisconsin when the Packers are doing well. There is an excitement. People do live or die by the Packers, and we're going to see if they can get back to the Super Bowl this weekend. I really appreciate you, sharing your thoughts on the upcoming games about the Super Bowl. And I hope you've been picking right all season
Chad,
long. I hope you're right again.
How many games per week do you watch, NFL games?
Probably 4. I think usually like 2 on Sunday, the Sunday noon game, and then there was the Thursday night game and the Monday night game. Those were kind of I'd say on average it was probably about 4.
So I watch around 9 per week. So, I do this thing. I wake up, I record 2 10 a.m. games for us out here on the West Coast. And then I wake up at noon and I fast forward through both of those games, but I watch every play. And then I'll have 2 games recorded at 1, and I'll watch both of those games. And then I watch the 5 o'clock game. And if one of those games isn't close, then I will watch one of the other games. It's crazy. Sometimes I'll record 3 games. And so I watch a lot of NFL. And, I think there's a lot of poker players and a lot of people that think, hey, there's a secret to sports betting and maybe we can figure it out. Now, Harabos Valgaris figured out a secret to NBA sports betting and was the biggest sports betting winner in history. I have another friend, Terrence, I'm not going to mention his last name, who figured out how to bet cricket and made millions. And so I haven't figured out how to do it week by week, but I like the NFL total stuff. And I think that's kind of a compelling thing is, can we figure this out? And the NFL, unfortunately, just sometimes the week to week stuff's tough,
Well, I certainly would be thrilled if you could figure it out and make a fortune, sports betting NFL games as you have in poker. Real quick, well, to have you, this is a poker podcast after all. We're in 2021. What's your poker playing like right now, or your poker plans for 2021? I know it's kind of nebulous given what's going on with the pandemic, but you think you might be playing some poker?
Bro, I've had some of the sickest runs of my life. I won 26 times in a row. Going to about January 3rd, 26 times in a row. It doesn't even make sense. And, and I had a 94K, a 57K, a 47K, 40K in there win. And there a couple of times I took a $300 win to keep the streak alive, or a $500 win, or even once a 200, but 26 times in a row. Okay. Then I lost 24K. Then the next night I won back 40. It just makes no sense. And so I've been on this huge run. Just winning a fortune playing online. And I know that I'm running good. I know that, that my ego's not out of control because it's a pandemic. And occasionally I have a little AFib, a little atrial fibrillation. And then when you have that, it's not like you feel like invincible. And so, I've been just killing it. It doesn't make sense. And I started to think, did I make $700,000 since like November 20th or something? I'll even play in games that big. And I think I have. And so it's been this amazing, crazy run. And then, and then the business stuff. I'm in 3 different SPACs, which I've been talking about. And they all hit 3 big investments in my life. And they all hit all-time highs like 10 days in December. And I'm just like, this is crazy. I'd wake up, I'm up. It'd be like, 10 in the morning and I'd look and I'm up 600,000 in the market. I'm like, what the and okay. And then I try to go back to sleep and I can't. Maybe by the end of the day, I'm only up 100. But I mean, some days just big numbers coming in, and it's been a lot of fun for me. And so, I'm very thankful, and I've been giving a lot of money to charities and I've been giving a lot of money back to, if I'm winning a lot of money from some of my friends, I'll give them 5K, 10K buy-ins, 50,000 to their charities, stuff like that,
Sure.
15,000, because it's not like, even if I was breaking even, I would be having a lot of fun playing with the 2 or 3 groups I play with regularly. But it's been a hell of a run.
Speaking of groups you play with, last question for you before I let you go. High Stakes Poker is back. It's made its return. You think once you have the vaccine, you might find yourself at the Poker Go studio playing on High Stakes Poker?
So I filmed 3 of those, and I had been on this phenomenal run where I'd won 23 out of 25 times filming with 1 break even. And the only loss was when I blew 70,000 on the last hand. I mean, I was this close from winning 24 out of 25 times. I made all the people at the stake site that I represent, ustake.com, $150,000 at least. And so just this massive win. And we got to High Stakes Poker, and I'm like, this is going to be sweet. And then I lost, and then the 3rd session I won enough to cover the other 2. But I was a little disappointed because I was expecting just to continue the streak. And again, I didn't lose huge numbers, and I won the 3rd session. So I won money for the 3 sessions, but it was a little disappointing because, I think I was taking some bad beats, and particularly James was smashing me in some weird pots, and then I remember folding a hand against Tom Dwan, which I'm sure they're going to show soon, where it came 5, 6, 7, and I had 10s, and I wasn't worried about him. I was worried about Chamath, and that cost me a win versus a loss on a day. But no, I mean, I've been on some incredible streaks.
I hate to interrupt you. You just said Chamath, and I know you mentioned him earlier in the show. It reminds me, I seen his tweets, Phil. He's crediting you with helping get him invested in the Golden State Warriors. That's a pretty cool story he's sharing.
It is amazing. Like, I will tell you this. I walked Chamath. So Joe Lacob and Kirk Lacob, Joe and his son Kirk, were looking for investors, and they were looking because there was going to be a strike. And so, they were worried about a strike coming. And so they told me, and Chamath had told me, he's interested in buying a team. And so I put the 2 of them together. I introduced them courtside, and then I walked Chamath into Joe Lacob's house with the intent to buy. And Joe was there, and Kirk was there, and I was there, and Chamath was there. And they had a nice talk. They liked each other. They hit it off. And Chamath ended up buying, I think it's public record, he ended up buying, I guess, 11% for like 25 million. And so, I brought him into that deal, and I walked him into that deal. And Joe has been as generous as he could possibly be with me. I remember Joe gave me floor seats, which were worth 55,000 each for the 2015 finals, game 5. Joe let me go to any game I wanted to for 8 years. After 8 years, I stopped asking, because he said yes every time. Every time there was a big game, I'd be sitting next to him, and I'd bring, some of my friends that played high stakes poker, friends of Joe's too, some of the biggest VCs, some of the biggest names in athletics, and I'd bring really cool people with me all the time. But Joe was super generous to just give me floor seats for years and years and years. Joe and his wife Nicole are amazing, and I have nothing but praise for them. And and finally, I'm like, God, I've been over asking, and I stopped asking, and they still kept inviting me to big games. And I mean, those seats are worth a lot. I mean, especially especially the last couple seasons. And so, Joe Lacob and Nicole Curran have been amazing to me. Chamath has been amazing to me. And, Chamath did well on that investment. I think, 10% is now 500 million. I think he put in 25 million. So 475 million he made. And I walked him into that deal. Makes me feel good.
Yeah.
You look at the Rush Street Interactive deal. I brought Rush Street into my SPAC, and now it's floating at $5 billion. And, I brought these guys together, and I was compensated well. I'm going to make millions and millions and millions from that deal. And so it's kind of weird to me, and maybe I sound cocky, but it is, maybe it's not cocky. I feel kind of weird that I seem to be at this intersection where, hey, I had a small part in my friend making a bunch of money. I had a small part in this company going public for 5 billion, and I benefited. And I've made a lot of connections. You know, I've introduced Chamath to Tiger Woods. I've introduced like all these amazing connections, and it's been a lot of fun, Chad. I'm having fun, so I need to make sure that I get enough sleep. And I'm sorry to anybody if I sound too cocky. It's been such an amazing ride that sometimes I'm like, let me pinch myself.
Right?
Did that really happen? It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I know who you are. I've known you a while. I know where you come from. I certainly know that you're appreciative of everything. And look, you're a mover and
Yes.
shaker in the poker world. You're a mover and shaker in the sports world, outside, and bigger things too. So I really appreciate having the opportunity for this chat and for you to take time out of your day to do this Poker News podcast interview. And yeah, I'm excited, and maybe I'll hit you up once we know the Super Bowl. Hopefully, it's the Packers Bills like you predicted.
I think Packers Bills, and I'm going to be betting my pack. And I think I'm going to bet the Bills. I think that, you know, I think they could win even if Mahomes comes back. But that's not going to be my pick of the week. You know, you have to stick with one. I think the Packers they're such a well-oiled machine. They remind me of the San Antonio Spurs. And then after the Spurs, I mean, all those years, and you know, where they just pass, 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 and then the Warriors were that team, pass, 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 pass. And now we have a well-oiled machine in the Packers. And I know you and I are rooting awfully hard for them in the next couple of weeks.